Hello, everybody, and welcome back. My name is Curtis Kaboom, and today I have a small story for you about the first ever autograph that I ever got. As you can see, I have a slight addiction to getting celebrity autographs on horror movie posters that I love. But the first one that I ever got was none other than Bruce Campbell. I went to a convention in Philadelphia that had Patrick Stewart, Adam West, and Stan Lee. But I didn't care about any of those guys. I only wanted Bruce Campbell because I loved Evil Dead so much. And he didn't disappoint. He was as nice as could be and funny as hell. Now, I've really liked what they've done with the recent Evil Dead movies and really enjoyed Evil Dead Rise. So, I was very excited for today's movie called Evil Dead Burn. So, here's my review of that. Evil Dead Burn is a 2026 horror movie and sequel to 2023's Evil Dead Rise. It is also the sixth movie in the Evil Dead franchise. This movie follows a family stuck at a remote house in the middle of the woods as they mourn the loss of their son, brother, or husband after he passed away in a horrible car accident that burned him alive. And if you know anything about the Evil Dead franchise, they soon get haunted by some zombie-like creatures called Deadites. But Deadites aren't your average run-of-the-mill zombie. They're more like possessed demon zombies that know everything about you and what makes you tick, and they absolutely love exploiting those ticks. Now, normally, you have to summon a Deadite by reading from the Necronomicon, the Book of the Dead. But this time, nobody made the dumb mistake of reading from the Book of the Dead. Instead, what summons the Deadites this time is somebody finding the Kandarian dagger. And that's one of the first big changes in this one compared to all the other movies, is that the Deadites actually have a goal that they're trying to accomplish. They want to get their hands on that dagger because they know it's the one thing that can easily kill them. Of course, besides a chainsaw, but that doesn't stop them from completely messing with and torturing their prey before they get what they want. Now, I gotta say, none of the Deadites in this movie really stand out like Alyssa Sutherland's version of Ellie in the last movie. Maybe it's really only because they focused on one in that movie, where there's multiple in this one, but that was never really a problem for any of the other Evil Dead movies. Probably the one that stands out the most is the Dadite. Yes, that is copyright Curtis Boom. I'm the one who made that up. Because he has the most screen time as a Deadite. And it is kind of strange in this movie how the Deadites seem to want to torture themselves more than the people in the actual house. Including the Dadite, when he gets a gun, he decides to just shoot himself in the head several times. Now, I get the emotional journey of watching a loved one shoot themselves in the head and torture themselves, but I think this was also to show that guns are pretty much useless against them. Another weird thing is that the Dadite just stands outside of the house and waits until somebody lets him in. Deadites aren't vampires. He could have just came in that window anytime that he wanted. And don't get me wrong, the other Deadites in this movie still have their moments. I just think that it was more focused in Evil Dead Rise. And they also kind of get hurt by the fact that I really didn't care about this family at all. There are definitely some sympathetic moments with the main character named Alice, whose abusive husband is the person from the funeral at the beginning of the movie, and the catalyst that sets off the entire movie. But the rest of the family is just kind of unlikable. Aside from the dog, who is sadly the first character killed off in the house, but we do get our first instance of a Deadite dog out of it. But the only other character that I even liked in this house was the senile grandma, which brings a little much-needed comedy back to this series. I don't think I'm the only person who's missing the comedy elements of the old-school Evil Dead movies. I get that these are horror movies, and that the old ones still had gory special effects, but these newer ones really have just turned into torture porn. I know we'll never replace Bruce Campbell in these movies, but I really wish they'd at least try to make a character half as funny or cool as Ash Williams. So, moving on, because I'll probably never get that wish, I just brought up the gore and special effects. So let's talk about that. This is Evil Dead. Of course, the gore and practical effects are top tier for a movie like this. There are a lot of scenes in this movie that will make you squirm in your seat by how painful they look. I really like the namesake of this movie, Burn, how they kept showing heat and someone getting boiled alive, and of course, fire, and you can definitely tell when these things are practical versus CGI, which is probably my biggest complaint of this whole movie. There is more noticeable CGI in this movie than either of the other two recent Evil Dead movies. Sure, it's to be expected in Hollywood nowadays. There is even some CGI in the final monster of Evil Dead Rise, but they balanced that out by also making practical effects for the actors to work with. But the entire final boss of this movie is all CGI, and it looks bad. I feel like Evil Dead is one of those franchises that just needs to be practical effects. If Hollywood insists on pumping out these Evil Dead movies as fast as they are, I'm fine with it as long as they're giving them to young, up-and-coming horror movie directors. But they gotta give them a shoestring budget, and they gotta figure out how to make everything practical. Sure, they can always touch up things with CGI and post, but I want them to be creative with how they have to figure out problems like Sam Raimi used to have to when he made Evil Dead 1. But I know that this is just a fever dream, and as technology progresses, the Evil Dead franchise will get into more and more CGI. But I think that the Evil Dead is that one franchise that should just stay as far away from CGI as it can. Except for maybe The Thing. So, aside from the CGI, I do think that this movie looks great though. The director does some fantastic work with the camera that doesn't feel like he's just trying to copy Sam Raimi. I particularly like the scene in a bathtub where a deadite drags someone up the wall, and it's shot in a way that makes you forget that gravity is a thing. You can really tell they had some good ideas for this movie, and I love the universe building, connecting it with the last movie, and possibly even all the other movies. The Deadites are as mean and gory as ever, but I never really cared enough about this family to really care that the Deadites are torturing them. And the use of CGI just absolutely pulls you out of the last act of this movie. Going into Evil Dead Burn, I kind of expected to not like it as much as Rise, and I was completely right. If you like the Evil Dead franchise, yeah, you're probably gonna like this movie. I still like this movie, but I kinda have to just give it a maybe. It's good, but not great. I'm glad that I saw this movie, but it's probably not a movie I'm gonna reach for on the shelf by itself. I'll only ever watch it when I'm watching full runs of all the Evil Dead movies. But if you do end up seeing Evil Dead Burn and think that it was amazing, please, I'd love to talk about it in the comments below. I'm always up for talking about Evil Dead. And one final note, just so you know, there are 2 post-credits scenes. Make sure you stick around for those.